Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's see. That's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. And the stream does appear to be live. Alright, let's get into it. Hello! Shadowcat back with more Magic the Gathering. Yes, it's been a week. It's been a very eventful week, to be honest. I almost forgot about this stream. It was literally like late last night when I realized, oh wait, I have a stream tomorrow morning. Have I even scheduled that? And it turns out the answer to that was no. So I had to scramble and get it scheduled while I still had time before the stream, because I try to get them scheduled 24 hours ahead of time, because I feel like that's a good lead-in for when you're going to do a live stream, even if it's like normally scheduled. I know not everyone does that. I just feel like it's proper. But yeah, it was really late. So we're here though. We're here. It's all that matters. And we've got a lot to do today. So we're going to get into this now. I'm going to pop up my chat so I can actually read it, because I think there's people in there. There we go. And yes, there are people in there. Blizzard Star is in the chat. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you. JP is in the chat. Hello, JP. Good to see you too. So the last time we were here, we went over spellcasting again, because I had to make adjustments to make Planeswalkers feel different from normal casters, you know, wizards, sorcerers, etc. I had to work that out, and I had to make sure that it was still balanced. And I think it is. So I've taken off the limits to what they can cast per turn. You are able to cast pretty much as many spells as the mana in the land will allow you to cast, which is great. The downside is that by and large, most of these spells that the Planewalkers are going to be casting are going to be weaker than what normal spellcasters would be casting. And the reason for that is because they're casting echoes and not the actual creatures. The examples that we used was the Raging Goblin. And I guess I could go ahead and pull that up. Let me just find that again. We're not going to spend a lot of time on creatures because, like I said, I have other things planned. But this is good for a recap. So let's go ahead and bring in our spreadsheet. And yeah, here we go. We've got the Raging Goblin. Raging Goblins are nothing. They cost like 1 mana to play. They're just a little goblin. And when we look at them, this is like a little level. This is like a level 12 goblin. And it's got 68 hit points, which, let's see, 6d8. It's a maximum of 48. We take off the 6 because you're guaranteed at least, or take off 8 because you're guaranteed 1 in at least all of them. No, 6? Yeah, 6. So that leaves us with 42. If we divide that by half, that's about 21. So you're talking about a level 12 goblin that'll have about 21, 22 hit points, give or take. And so, I mean, that's not great, especially for something that's level 12. 22 hit points. A fighter with a decent weapon can kill that in one shot. But that's kind of the point. They're echoes. They're not the actual thing. They're lesser. And we look at them, like this level 12 goblin still does 1d1 damage. Who's it hurting? With a plus 12 to its attack, it might be making solid attacks, but it's going to be nibbling away at whatever you're fighting. Which is kind of the point. You can get these little bitty creatures, but you can get a whole bunch of them, and you can literally swarm things. Whereas an actual goblin does 1d4 plus whatever strength bonus it has, it's generally better. Now, is a wizard going to still be casting goblins once they're level 12? Probably not. They've got better spells at this point. But they could. The difference is, though, you can still cast more of them. At level 12, we also established that you can control up to the number of creatures equal to your level. So, while each one of these goblins only does 1d1 damage, you could have 12 of them. And since that 1d1 damage is static at 1, you could be doing 12 damage per turn, you know, depending on rolls and such. So it's going to be good. It's going to be good. I like the way this is working out. And so today, now that we've got all of that spellcasting stuff put aside, I want to get back to work on the actual Planeswalkers themselves, because there's some things that I've learned that I want to get into and I want to integrate. And so, without further ado, why don't we get into that? Let me go ahead and bring in my browser, because I think I'm going to need it. And we'll take a look at the Planeswalkers again. So, already we've got mana and spells in here. The spells note, I need to put in descriptors for each one of these, and I can do that later. We know what mana is, and we know what spells are. The rest is just explanations and flavoring. The next thing that I want to put in is going to be color identity. Now, this is something that I was going to put in initially, and I was told not to by the chat. And to be fair, the chat was right. The way that I was going to go about this the first time was bad. I was going to make it so that you had to pick a color at the beginning, and that was the color that you were going to be kind of stuck with. However, the argument that was made before is that by doing that, I would be robbing players of a lot of their creativity and versatility in the game. To which I agree. I do agree. I think that would have been a really big mistake on my part. So we're not going to be doing it that way, but I am going to be putting in color identity, because when I was learning more about Magic the Gathering and more about the actual characters in Magic the Gathering, they all do have a natural color identity. And I ask this because when we were looking at the mana system, and I've got over here this ocean. Let me scroll up a little bit here. Yeah, I got this ocean here. And I said, you know, this ocean is great if you're a blue player, because you've got 12 blue to play here, plus you've got 11 mana otherwise. That's a lot of mana that you could use. I was using the Sage Owl for an example, and since the Sage Owl costs blue plus 1, that means that you could summon 11 Sage Owls in one turn, which is awesome. But what if you're a black caster? And so you want to summon a bunch of zombies. Well, this ocean sucks for you because there is only one black mana available. And I will guarantee you, if your zombie only costs 1, it's costing it's costing black mana. There's not going to be any colorless involved. So, if you are going to be a caster, then perhaps you might want to diversify a little bit. If you're going to be, you can be a primarily black caster. If you've got a thing for zombies, then great. I'm sure get all the zombies you want, but maybe have some stuff in there. And that kind of led me down a bit of a rabbit hole, learning how the actual Planeswalkers in the story worked, because you, as a player, as a Planeswalker, when you're building your deck, you can pick any colors you want. At least until you get to Commander. Now, in Commander, they actually do enforce color identity. I'll get to that in a second. But in general, in Standard play, which is what we're modeling after, you can put whatever cards you want into your deck. Now, obviously, there are some really common sense things. If your deck is primarily red-blue, maybe you don't want to put green cards into it because you may not have any cards that can actually provide the mana for a green card. That's just common sense. But you have the ability to make it whatever you want. And in Magic the Gathering, there are many Planeswalkers and everyone has their own thing. Chandra, I know for a fact, is red. She's a red Planeswalker. Liliana is a black Planeswalker. Jace is a blue Planeswalker. Niv Mizzet is a red-blue Planeswalker, etc., etc. And I was using ChatGPT to try and go over this stuff because I can't parse through the entirety of the lore on my own. I can't read all the books. But I asked, it's like, so what's stopping somebody like Chandra from just saying, oh, well, if I'm wandering away from the mountains, maybe I should prepare some blue spells? And the answer that I got back is that, well, she just kind of can't. And it's not that she couldn't learn. Apparently color shifting has happened in the lore before. Some people have gotten different kinds of colors. Actually, I wonder if I can find the examples that I was given. Let me take a quick look here. Let's see, Magic the Gathering. Give that a second to load. Here we go, color shifting. So where was the example given? No, not there, not there, not there. Here we go. Yeah, so do some characters shift? And Chandra is red, obviously, as I just stated. Apparently, Chandra also gained some white abilities after her interactions with Gideon. I don't know who Gideon is, but I'm assuming it's another Planeswalker. And some touches of green after interacting with Nissa. Nissa, of course, is the next on the list as a green Planeswalker. However, Nissa began to learn a little bit of blue later on after some introspection and learning how to shape different manas. Liliana is primarily black, also began to use a little bit of blue from Jace, a little bit of white from Gideon. Ajani is a white planeswalker who began to use a little bit of both red and green. And Teferi, whom I do not know, is primarily a blue, however, began to use a little bit of white, and then also had black, but stopped using black entirely, just gave it up. And so at the end, we ended up in a situation where Chandra ended up as kind of a red-blue-white, Nissa became kind of a green-black, Ajani became kind of a white-black-red. So these things have happened, and so I need to account for them in the game. And I think that I found a good, happy medium on this one. So where is this? Here we go. I've got Planeswalker lore here, and there's even a tab right here for color shifts. And it lists here all of the different color shifts that have happened. So, like right here is Ajani. The usual state is white, just default white, plain white. Started to channel a little bit of red in the initial state in anger at losing his brother. Started to use a little bit of green, becoming a mentor and helping others, and became white, black, I think that's black-red? No, that's green-white Phyrexian. Okay, so just white-green completed. And as you can see, there's a lot of them who've had multiple iterations of their color identity. So, that's great. I want to pull up... here we go. Perfect. The color wheel. That's what I wanted. So, what we have here is the typical color wheel, and you'll see this on the back of every single Magic the Gathering card. Usually it's just in the form of little balls, but we got a wheel, which is cool. We're going to do this. What I'm going to institute is everyone is going to be given a color, or they're not going to be given. They're going to choose a color identity when you make your character. So, right here, at level 1, I'm going to put in here color identity, because you're going to pick what color you want to be. Now, this is going to be very important because it is going to dictate the rest of your character's development. Now, when you pick your color identity, you are only allowed to pick spells of that color. Or rather, you're only allowed to cast spells of that color, I should say. I will not preclude anybody from picking spells that do not match that color, but you won't be able to cast them. This will allow people to actually plan down the future and say, I would rather kind of prioritize a different color a little bit more at the expense of being able to use more stuff now. And so if you wanted to be, say, a white Planeswalker, you're going to take this one. And great, now you have access to all white spells, and of course anything colorless too. What about the rest of them? Well, when we look at the color wheel, I can divide the color wheel up into 3 parts. The first part is going to be your color identity, whether that's white, blue, red, whatever you happen to pick. But let's go with white, just because I've already been kind of riffing on that one. Then we can divide the color wheel into 2 other parts. The first will be the adjacent colors. White is adjacent to both blue and green. And so, as such, when we get into higher levels and we want to expand our color identity, those will be the first places to go. Now, when I look at this, I want to be able to split up our color identities and I want them to grow over time. However, I do not want them to obviously cap out at level 20 because, well, that's not doing anybody any good. So here's what I'm thinking. If we're already getting a color identity at level 1, I'm thinking about going with every 4 levels. So, for example, we're come down here to level 4, and we're going to say here, first adjacent color. Which means that if we are white, at level 4, you will be able to pick your second color. If you pick white, you can pick blue or green. That's it. And so, that's all we can really do. Now, how it's going to go from here, I'm still a little bit undecided, and you can give me a little bit of feedback in the chat with how you want to do this. There's 2 ways that I see going from here. We go for every 4 levels. So we come down here to level 8. And at level 8, we're going to say the second adjacent color. Okay? But how we're going to do that, I'm not sure. See, as a white, you're going to have 2 adjacent colors, blue or green. And so when you pick your first adjacent colors, that's the only options that you have. The first way that I can think of doing this is using the white, or your original, which in this case is going to be white, your original color identity as an anchor point. Meaning that, because you are white, and because you picked blue the first time, the only option left is going to be green. And that's all you can do. So, your choice is essentially made up for you. This is not unprecedented in other classes where you can make a choice and then later on your choice might be dictated for you. But I don't entirely like it. I'm more inclined to say that now that you've added blue into your repertoire, I can now call you a white-blue Planeswalker. There's even a little compass pointer right there. If I mouse over it, you can't really see it, but it's right there. It's right under my mouse. So, if we were to take you as a white-blue Planeswalker now, you have 2 adjacent colors again. Those being green and black, meaning that because you have this now broader identity, red is still off limits to you. Because you are white, because you chose to go to blue instead, red is off the table. But we can also do this a different way. If you were white and you decided you were going to go white-green, that's great. You've gone white-green. You're now a white-green Planeswalker. Now, if we look at our adjacencies, when you reach level 8, your options are blue and red. Black is still off the table. You can't take it. So no matter what color identity you have, and no matter what your first adjacent color, something will always be denied to you. And I think that that's right. I think that's perfect, actually. Choice with consequence. It means that you're going to have to level up even more if you want to fully unlock everything. So let's keep this going. If level 8 is our second adjacent color, we can come down here to level 12. to pick our third adjacent color. And now, if we go with the dual identity, when we pick our third adjacent color, if we were white-blue before, our third adjacent color will have to be white or green or black. And we can pick either or. And if we do that, we can end up as green, white, blue, or white, blue, black. All of which are actual color combinations in the game. There's not too many cards that are triple color like that, but they do exist. And in doing so, let's say that we picked black. We're now white, blue, black, and our adjacent colors have now become green and red. There is nothing opposed. Then, if we come down here, I believe it's going to be level 16. Yes, level 16 will be our fourth adjacent color. So, you started off as white. At level 4, you got to pick your first adjacent color. You picked blue. You're now a white-blue Planeswalker. At level 8, you get your second adjacent color. We're going to pick black, so we're now white, blue, black. At level 12, is level 12? Yeah? Yeah, level 12. You pick your next adjacent. Let's go red. And at level 16, you get to pick your last adjacent color. You only have one option at this point. You get to pick green, which makes you a fully realized multicolor rainbow Planeswalker. This means that, number one, color identity is still going to matter considerably. You are going to need to think hard about what kind of person you want to be. And it's kind of hard to read, but if we look at this, and I can't scroll up any further, these even have different words on them explaining what they're about. Just the ones that we can see, which is only the bottom half, because I only have half a screen for my browser. Black has parasitism and amorality. They just don't care and they'll do whatever they have to. Red has impulse and chaos. Green has instinct and interdependence. Every single one of these has different categories to them that are going to be much more important later. We'll get to it. And so I think this is going to work. I think this is going to be a good way to implement color identity without restricting anybody too much. And I do like the idea that it will eventually just give you the ability to become a fully fledged Planeswalker on your own. In addition to that, though, there was one thing that I wanted to get into, and I wonder if it's listed in here. Multicolor, general wedges, things like that. Planar chaos, color bleed. Mechanics, no. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Guilds. So one of the things that I want to insert into the world, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but I want to insert guilds. Now, when we were going through all the rules, particularly when we were going through the activated abilities, we saw that almost every single guild had its own activated ability, and so we went through almost every single guild that was in the game. Guilds are always multiple color, which is why we needed to have kind of like a color identity. Because what I think I'm going to do, and what I'm going to restrict, is that the only way to really join a guild is going to be to match that color identity. Now, what is this going to mean? This is going to mean that certain spells are going to be kind of restricted. So, for example, if I come down here to the Izzet Guild, because it's my guild, I'm a red-blue player. Things that are specific to the Izzet Guild. Some of their core mechanics are Replicate from Guild Pact, Overlord in Return to Ravnica, and Jumpstart from Guilds of Ravnica. They also have specific creature types. Right, weirds. So, created during the Elemental Symposium by Nib Mizzet, weirds are semi-sentient walking paradox result of the fusion of elementals of opposing elements, fire and water, earth and electricity, etc. The weirds are creature type unique to the Izzet League and function as ubiquitous lab assistants and pets. The idea here being that if you wanted to have weirds in your spell deck, you would need to join the Izzet Guild. Which is fine, because I can put guild headquarters all over the map. I have map generators, and I have like a generic one that I can tailor to any environment. All I have to do is simply insert a guild hall, and then a list of all of the guilds, and I can just have guilds planted all over the place. Will help breathe a little bit of life into the actual the world map. So that'll be good. And we can see that there's some here in the Alara shards that are even 3 colors. Meaning that if you wanted to join one of these guilds, you would need to be at least a level 8 Planeswalker just to have the color identities to match them. And you'll need it because obviously in order to cast any of their spells, you'll need those color identities anyway. There's even more of them down here. And even the 4 color identities down in Commander 2016. Artifice, Chaos, Aggression, Altruism, and Growth. So, there you go. It says the last color combination is all of them. And it's exemplified by the Unite the Coalition and the Conflux. I don't know where we're going to find those, but hey, there you go. It's an option. So that's how I want to handle guilds. And that's how color identity is going to actually shape what you can do as a Planeswalker in the game. And I'm very excited for that. I think it's going to be really good. So okay, that's going to be color identities. And now we need to get into Planeswalking. Because I've kind of danced around this a lot, and now we got to do it. Before we get into the actual Planeswalking part, I think we need to look into the different planes. So, the multiverse. And close that, we don't need that. Obviously, Magic the Gathering takes place in a multiverse. And so, traveling to different places is a whole part of the game. The real challenge here is that I'm going to have to make this somehow usable for Planeswalkers and for non-Planeswalkers. And I have a bit of a cheat here. I don't like it, but it is canon. And so whether I like it or not, it's there. But the first thing to start off with is the multiverse, of course. So we can go through some of these planes and kind of explore them a little bit. Like the first one here is Domania. It is an outdated name for the entire multiverse, but now it does refer to the plane of Dominaria. It is the setting for most of the storylines. It is basically the equivalent of Earth, or Faerun, or whatever it is that Pathfinder calls their primary world, I forget. But basically, it's the default location, okay? And it's everything that you would come to expect. Grass is green, sky is blue, water's wet, gravity points down, and it's approximately 9.8 or 9.2, 9.8 meters per second squared, something like that. Physics works, there's a day-night cycle, it's what you would come to expect. However, the difference is that you can travel to different universes and the rules there might be different. Now, Pathfinder already has a multiverse in it. So does Dungeons and Dragons, because they're essentially kind of the same thing. Different flavors, same structure. In Dungeons and Dragons, you have kind of like a sphere, and the material plane is right at the center. If you go up, you enter the astral planes, otherwise known as the heavens. And the heavens are usually aligned in some way. There's pretty much just all of your good and neutral planes are up there, and all the combinations thereof. If you go down, you enter the hells. You have all of your neutral, chaotic, and evil planes there. Yeah, I should have stipulated. The astral planes, lawful, neutral, and good, hells, chaotic, evil, and neutral, and all the combinations thereof. You can also go side to side, so you can imagine going up and down in a sphere. There's still a lot of space left over. If you go around the equator of the sphere, you enter the elemental planes: fire, water, earth, air. Pretty simple, pretty standard, and then you get into the demi-planes where they run into each other. Fire and air is a land of lightning and storms. Air and water is a land of ice and snow, and so on and so forth. It's kind of bad, and it's because it's kind of amorphous. There's even all the other different color combinations. Like there's a steam demi-plane where water and fire touch. Everything there is fog. We're going to be ditching that entire model though, because we want to use the canon multiverse that we already have. And to that end, I also want to I want to try and integrate the plane chase mechanics, because the plane chase cards actually give us specific cards that notably affect different environments, and I'll pull some of those up once we get to them. So obviously, Dominaria is the central point. There's a Nexus, which I don't think that we're going to be really worried about. The Nexus is kind of where the entire universe centers on, and it has a large number of ley lines that go to it. It's not going to matter too much to us. It's not going to affect anything really mechanically as far as I know. However, coming back to here, let's see where. See also planes. Is this one that I want? Card type, plane set. Here we go. This is what I wanted. So when I mentioned the plane chase cards, you can see right here, this is all references to the plane chase cards. They would let you actually traverse through different planes, and they would affect the way play changed as you ran through them. Over here are a bunch of names. However, you'll notice that the planes that they're on, there's a lot of duplicate planes because they're just different parts on the plane. So we're going to be looking at this second column right here. So for example, there's Alara. Alara is a plane, and there's several notable locations on it. There's Arcos, which is fine. Bolus's meditation realm, completely irrelevant. We won't need to worry about it. Lots of locations in Dominaria. Here's one in Equilar. Here's one in This one is Iquitana. Kaldim, a couple in Kamigawa. Karsus, Kinshala. Lots of them in Lorwyn. Luvian, Mercadia, a couple in Mirrodin. My favorite place. Moag, Murganda, Phyrexia. Pulia, there's a lot of them. I don't need to go through all of these. The point is that this is going to be the multiverse that we are working with. And these aren't even in order. If I were to order them... Yeah, okay, that's better. So now there's even more Alaras. There's a couple of these Belnons now. There's even more Dominarias. Like I said, you get the idea. We will be starting in Dominaria. I guarantee that. There's no reason for us to start anywhere else. It's going to be the best place to go. And as such, every single one of these places will be a notable place on the map. I don't know if there's an actual map of Dominaria. If there is, I'll try to use that. And if not, I'll make my own. I can make maps. So, that's how we're going to work, and we're going to be able to plane shift between them. Obviously, if you are a planeswalker, you will be able to do this yourself. If you are not a planeswalker, however, you're going to have a problem because that means that if your party's planeswalker pops off somewhere else, what are you supposed to do? Well, there is actually an answer to that in Canon Magic the Gathering. And it's right here, Ravnica and the Omen Path Project. It says here, following the new Phyrexian's invasion of the multiverse, the Omen Paths began opening across Ravnica and other worlds. Niv-Mizzet recognized their patterns as a significant threat to his plane and devised a plan to regulate their access in a way to position Ravnica as the locus of the multiverse. PC Unicorn's in the chat. Hello, PC Unicorn. Good to see you. PC Unicorn says, I'm not sure there is, but I know some, I assume that means pieces of Dominarium move. Okay, good to know. And honestly, I would believe that. And if they do move, then that's great. I can actually use that. It also means that there's no canon map that I need to rely on. So that's good too. Anyway, it says here, describing the Omen Paths as transplanar arteries, the Stitcher Garof Kisani, I'm not sure, pondered the effects of transplanar travel on non-planeswalkers. He believed that every plane of existence has its own rules of magic, and that every magic user over time will have their magic adapt itself to the natural rules of a new plane. The important thing here is that because of the whole Omen Path thing that started with the new Phyrexian invasion, there is now a way for non-planeswalkers to transit to other planes. This essentially is going to function like the gate spell in the Wizard spellbook, where you can literally just open up a hole and step between planes. The only difference is that these are permanent or semi-permanent or basically whatever they need to be, and anybody can walk through them. Now, as I understand it, there are some caveats to this. For example, there are some places where if you simply walk through them, you die. And that could be due to the fact that these Omen Paths are not stable. It could be due to the fact that some of the planes are just not very hospitable. And then there are some that will just change you. The best example I can find being Bloomsboro, which is an actual released edition, and as such, it is canon and we can use it. However, when Bloomsboro came out, one of the explanations made was, when you go through there, you are transformed into an animal. And no, not a furry. No, not something that's anthropomorphized. You are an animal. An intelligent animal, yes, and an animal capable of using tools and spells and all that, but an animal nonetheless. There is no 6-foot-tall squirrel girl. There's just a squirrel with a tiny sword. So, traveling to different planes is going to be a little bit interesting. There's going to be different rules for each one, and that's going to be something I'm going to kind of figure out behind the scenes. I mean, for reasons that, number one, there's going to be a lot of work that goes into it, and number two, I don't want to give away all the secrets. But the fact of the matter is that with the Omen Pass, it is possible for other people to transit to other planes. This is going to make this a lot easier for us because it means that I don't need to worry about a planeswalker planeswalking somewhere else and the rest of the party not being able to get to them. Now that can still happen. And if the planeswalker just said, well, I'm out, it means that the other players could have or would have a way to get to them, even if it means they might need to travel halfway across the world to get to the appropriate Omen Path. The point is that it could be done. So, let's get into planeswalking itself and how this works. So, we talked briefly about this before, but we're going to get into it in more detail now. And so we've got Planeswalker lore, they've got a spark that allows them to do things, And I think if we come here... No, I don't want color shifts. Planeswalker Spark. And let's see. This is going to allow them to Planeswalk. Let's see, after the mending... I know that I saw a page on Planeswalking. Where was it? Oh, no, I just had to scroll down. Okay, Planeswalking, here we go. So, it says here under Planeswalking, it can take weeks or months to get the hang of Planeswalking. It can take a lifetime to master it. The act of Planeswalking is a spell, and like how every mage practices magic differently, every Planeswalker planeswalks slightly differently. Some can planeswalk swiftly, others more slowly, some require great effort, others can do it with ease. Some can planeswalk again in a short amount of time, some can take a while. Some can carry more inorganic material, a rare few can actually planeswalk organic material, and even that usually has restrictions. Yangu, for example, can only planeswalk with a questionably organic Mowu, specifically, and Ren needed to be in a symbiotic relationship with the tree folk to take them with her. Kava is exceptional that she can merge her body and mind with another being and take that individual with her on a planeswalk. Nissa had a packet of Zendikari seeds that she planned to plant another plane. Ugin was able to bring Nicol Bolas to the meditation plane wrapped in his wings, though the Blind Eternities grievously injured and blinded Bolas. And it's also implied that Bolas only survived the trip because he's a powerful elder dragon. So, planeswalking is going to be a little bit different for everybody, and technically speaking, I can't do that. While I would like to be that specific with it, I think it's a really bad idea to try and overcomplicate this. What we need is a general set of rules for planeswalking. And JP says, but can they moonwalk? The answer to that is no. They cannot. Because as far as I know, there's no setting that takes place on the moon. And so, no, I can't allow that. Also, I don't think they've made Michael Jackson into a card yet. I could be wrong. There could be a Michael Jackson card. In fact, it would not surprise me now. But if it does, he's a planeswalker and only he can moonwalk. Okay, so, planeswalkers can planeswalk to specific locations, though their accuracy is determined by their experience, mana, time, and familiarity with the destination. A planeswalker can also effectively teleport by planeswalking to the Blind Eternities and then back to another location on the same plane, which is the closest they're going to get to teleporting. There's no planeswalker that can teleport directly, and since they are planeswalking to the Blind Eternities, and the Blind Eternities are just this side of lethal, maybe not the best idea. And I think this is going to be really easy because I can use rules for this. So if we're gonna come here to the wizard and the sorcerer wizard spell list. And I'm going to go to teleport. Where is it? Fool's teleport. No, don't do that. There it is, teleport. So here we go, teleporting. And PC of course says, what about using your system for the 40k module with the warp? Ooh. Well, first off, I don't think anybody wants to. Everything about the warp is awful and nobody wants to do that. Secondly, while I might be able to adapt it in some way, I don't think it's really necessary. Possible, but not necessary. Warp travel needed to be worked on because it's kind of unique in the way people travel. There's nothing else quite like it, because when it comes to warp travel, there's just so many things that can go wrong. And that's what I had to account for. Traveling through warp is a significant gamble and not the kind of thing that you want to do very often. This is supposedly a lot easier and a lot safer, generally, which is why I want to go to the teleport rules, because this is kind of what we're doing. And the thing that I want to look at is right here. So the idea of planeswalking is going to fall somewhere in here. And what we can do here is, if the plane is somewhere that you've been to before, we can easily say that it falls under the very familiar category. And this should be very easy. So if you started on Dominaria and you planeswalk to Zendikar, getting back to Dominaria should be very simple, and you can even dictate where you would like to go. Traveling to another place, though, or another plane, should be something worse. So, for example, we can take very familiar off the map if you're traveling to a new plane that you've never been to before. It's not happening. The rest of these, however, we'll have to look into. So, let's start here with the false destination. I don't think we need to worry about false destination, because this is literally used for spells like Fool's Teleport. It says right here, false destination is a place that does not truly exist, or if you are teleporting to an otherwise familiar location that no longer exists, such as such, or has been completely altered to no longer be familiar to you. When traveling to a false destination, you roll 1d20 plus 80 to obtain the results on the table, rather than rolling a d percentage. The only way I can see this happening is if you were trying to... I mean, just as it says, trying to jump to a plane that doesn't exist. And in that case, maybe you end up in the Blind Eternities, which is basically just a death sentence. Or maybe you just kill yourself in the process. I'm not sure. Because we have to look at what a mishap is. Here's what a mishap is. It says, you and anyone teleporting with you have gotten scrambled. You each take 1d10 points of damage, and you re-roll on the chart to see where you wind up. For each of these re-rolls, you roll a 1d20 plus 80. Every time the mishap comes up, you take more damage and must re-roll. So if you roll the mishap, you could be taking a whole bunch of damage. So we know that that's not going to be it. If you're just trying to, like, casually, step to another plane. So, study carefully. What would this even mean? There's still a chance for a mishap because you've never done it before. But I think when it says study carefully, they would literally mean that. You've put in the effort, you know somebody who's been there, etc., etc. And it doesn't actually cover any of this, so we have to kind of make our own interpretations here. Study carefully. Let's say that you wanted to go to Zendikar, and so you go to a library and you start reading up on Zendikar. These would have to be actual novels written by planeswalkers, because they're the only ones that would have the proper knowledge and experience. It also means that finding these books would be exceedingly difficult. Although, I suppose, now that we're integrating the omen paths, technically speaking, that might not be the case. Maybe it might actually be easier to find information on Zendikar. I don't know. We'll have to work on that. Seen casually. So this is something that maybe you didn't actually see it, but maybe you've heard somebody talk about it. They've described it. They've explained what the plane is kind of like, what the people there are like, what the environment is like, and so maybe you can try. Viewed once, you heard about it in passing. Somebody mentioned the name, they mentioned that it was a plane, and you just said, I want to go there. And so you have an idea of where you're going, like you at least have the name of the plane in your mind, but you still otherwise have no idea. And so I think that we can use these teleportation rules to do what we want. And that should be enough to handle that. What we do need to get to is how is planeswalking going to work? Because, as it stated here, where was it? Yeah, here we go. It says that some people can carry more inorganic material with them. Few can even transport organic material, and those usually have restrictions. So, in general, most planeswalkers can't bring a whole lot of stuff with them. I imagine that planeswalkers tend to travel really light. And this is actually backed up by the actual ignition of their spark. Like if I come here to the tab that says igniting. Igniting, otherwise known as the triggering, flaring, or the ascension, refers to their spark's ignition, the process by which a sapient creature activates their latent spark and becomes a planeswalker. So, the pre-revisionist stories, they were often sorcerers who somehow acquired the incredibly vast amount of mana required to perform the ritualistic sorcery. We're not doing that. I mean, that's no longer valid for us. Here we have sparking, though. Following the mending, which is what we're doing. We're playing post-mending. Ascension was no longer a viable option for becoming a planeswalker, making it impossible for most wizards to become planeswalkers. A very small fraction of wizards possess the qualities needed for a natural spark. These wizards are known as embers. Usually, ignition is triggered by a powerful, emotionally affecting, and perspective-altering life event. Ignitions are often caused by near-death experiences, though it is possible for an ember to undergo such an experience, even dying, without igniting their spark. Now, obviously, your character did not die. I feel like I don't need to go into this. So, whatever happened, you survived it. And this means that you have already gotten your spark, and you've already done your first planeswalk, which it goes into here. As an effective ignition, the newly ignited planeswalker planeswalks away for their first time. They are pulled to the blind eternities and then come back, appearing on a random plane, and afterwards realizing their new traveling powers. So, just as some examples, a Johnny Goldmane ignited on Naya, ended up in Jund. And that happened after he realized the death of his brother. Okay? Trauma. I don't even know how to pronounce you, and there's nothing here about it. So let's just find somebody else. Chandra. I know Chandra. Chandra's our typical red fiery planeswalker. Chandra started off on Kaladesh and ended up on Regatha after striking against her executioner with pyromancy. I mean, there you go. You're going to kill me? Well, I'm going to kill you back. And not only did she do something, but she ended up somewhere else. What else we got? Domri Raid started off in Ravnica, ended up in Naya, being buried alive as part of a Gruul ritual. Elsbeth Tyrell started off in Capenna, ended up in Theros, fleeing from the Phyrexians. I mean, I love the Phyrexians, but yeah, I would run from them too. What else we got? Farrelin started off in Dominaria, ended up in Chandalar. Cast the Ascension spell using mana harvested from Chromium Rithuli. So this is like the pre-mending stuff. Who else we got? Here's Gideon. Gideon started off in Theros, ended up in Bant, realizing the death of his irregulars through his own hubris. So yeah, some kind of trauma caused this, and immediately, as soon as it's done, you planeswalk. Here's the problem though. If you can't take anything with you, that means that wherever you landed essentially naked. Or maybe with the clothes on your back. The problem for me here is that that sucks. And I mean that sucks from like a player perspective. What Planeswalker is going to want to Planeswalk if it means that they can't bring their gear with them? So what I think we need is a system where we can adjust how much you're allowed to bring with you. And my immediate thought is to just give you levels in pounds. Like, let's say that as a level 1 Planeswalker, you are allowed to bring 10 pounds of gear with you. Okay? So, I don't need this here. Let's come here. We'll come to equipment. So, in general, since we're using the summoner, here we go. Summoners generally get about 70 gold pieces of gear to start off with. Now that might sound like a lot. Trust me, it's not. And let's get into this a little bit. The first thing that everyone is going to have, and you do get this for free, is going to be a set of clothing. Now it's not going to be fancy clothing. A character may begin play with one outfit valued at 10 gold pieces or less at no cost. And so when we look at 10 gold pieces or less, chausses, you can't see that, chausses, any of these not any, almost any of these outfits. Here's a gambeson for 1 gold piece, an artisan's, burglar's, cold weather outfit, courtesan's outfit, let's see, 10 or less, an entertainer's, executioner's, explorers, that's 10. Hot weather, monk's outfit, you get the idea. And these are all going to weigh between, let's see, where's the peasants? I saw peasants, here we go. A peasant's outfit is 2 pounds. The expensive one, the explorer, here we go, the explorer's outfit, 8 pounds. So if we establish that a planeswalker can planeswalk with about 10 pounds of gear per level. No, not that one. Here we go. Explorers. That means that if you're wearing an explorer's outfit, you may planeswalk with only the clothes on your back and maybe some small things like maybe a knife. I mean, how much does a dagger cost? Or not how much does a dagger cost? How much does a dagger weigh? Weapons? Weapons. Here we go. Dagger. Where's the dagger? Here it is. Dagger. It weighs 1 pound. Okay, so there you go. You can have your 8 pounds of your clothing, and you can have your dagger, and maybe a sandwich. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. So you got something to eat, you got a knife, and you got your clothing. Or maybe you don't bring your clothing. Maybe you can bring the rest of your gear and you just show up naked with a backpack. Whatever it happens to be, the choices would have to be yours because I don't feel like randomly rolling every single piece of your gear. I could. I have systems for doing it. But I don't want to. It tends to drag things down. However, if we do 10 pounds of gear per level, at level 2, that becomes 20 pounds. Level 3 becomes 30 pounds. At level 20, it becomes 200 pounds. 200 pounds is significant because if we come over here to basics and ability scores, we're looking for somebody who's got a 200-pound light load. So scrolling, here we go. A 200-pound light load is somebody with a strength score of 23. You are a planeswalker. The idea that you will have a strength score of 23 is kind of ludicrous. So you won't be carrying that much anyway. That would allow you to almost carry other people with you. And that's something else that we need to get into. Should you be able to teleport other people with you? If we come back to the actual teleport rules, It says this spell instantly transports you to a designated destination, which may be as distant as 100 miles per caster level. Interplanar travel is not possible, and that's where obviously our planeswalkers are going to be separating from these normal rules. It says you can bring along objects so long as their weight does not exceed your maximum load. You may also bring one additional willing, medium, or smaller creature carrying their gear and objects up to its maximum load, or its equivalent per 3 caster levels. Now, let's stop and think about that one for a minute. So you can carry one additional person for every 3 caster levels. That means that the highest you can get is if you are a level 18, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, a level 18 arcane caster. 18 divided by 3 would be 6. You could bring 6 people with you. And so, okay, we can do that. That seems okay, right? So, if you can bring 6 people with you like this, but this one does not do interplanar travel, let's pro-con this. So, first off, teleport doesn't travel interplanar. Planeswalking does. Alright, that's 1 point for planeswalking. Planeswalkers, per the kind of tentative rules, can only bring 10 pounds per level. Teleport can bring up to your maximum load, which, I mean, let's imagine that you're a wizard and you're like really weak. Okay? You're a really weak one. You've only got a 10 score in your strength. Your maximum load is 100 pounds. And so, as such, that's more gear than the Planeswalker can bring. At what level do you get teleport? Let's see. Summoner of Chained Witch, Magus, Sorcerer Wizard, 5. So it's a level 5 spell, which means I think you get it at level 7. At level 7, a Planeswalker would be carrying about 70 pounds. So the weakest wizard has still kind of got him beat. At level 7, the wizard would also be able to teleport and bring along 2 other people. So we got to kind of factor this in too. So right now we got a point 1 and 1 for teleport versus planeswalking. Planeswalking is a little bit more versatile. Teleport can bring more with it by default. As far as bringing people, I could give them the same rule as 1 person for every 3 levels. This means that every single time they want to planeswalk, they would have to bring someone, or they would have to, no, it's not they would have to. They planeswalk, they can bring people with them, starting with 1 at level 3. And yeah, just like the teleport, all the way up to level, or all the way up to 6 at level 18. I think that works. So why don't we come back here and let's add a couple of things. So let's say we're gonna add down here at level 1, Planeswalk. Okay, and I'm gonna need a couple more columns. So insert column and insert column. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to say weight and people. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I'm going to go ahead and add a row in here. No, row height. I want you to add a row. There we go. I'm going to merge these just so that I can put Planeswalking here. I'm going to say this is going to be weight in pounds. And it's going to be really simple. 10, 20, 30. I should be able to just drag this all the way down. Perfect. And then people. So if you can teleport one person for every 3 levels, then that would be nobody and nobody. 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6. Did I do that wrong? I might have done that wrong. Okay, 2 at the 6th level, yes. 3 at level 9. 4 at level 12. 5 at level 15. 6 at level 18. No, I did this right. I did it right. Yeah, because they would get a 7th at level 21, so that's fine. Let's see. PC Accord says, so a British billionaire couldn't bring their fortune. Too many pounds. Boo. Although, I mean, still probably right because it's pound sterling and sterling silver is pretty heavy. So, actually, you're pretty on the ball there. Unfortunately, I hate to give it to you, but that was good. It's a good point. Anyway, so there we go. Planeswalking, the amount of weight they can carry and the number of people that they can carry. Now, Planeswalking, of course, is going to use the typical teleport rules. So I'm just going to put down here Planeswalking, because I don't want to forget this. Interplanar travel. Random destination. Unless... what was the... Unless it's very familiar. Okay. So it's a random destination unless very familiar. And then use teleport table. And that should be really all that I need for that. So that is going to give us a good planeswalking mechanic. You can bring your stuff with you, assuming that you're a high enough level. And there you go. Next up, though, there is something I wanted to consider. And that's because planeswalkers, in general, planeswalk when, for the first time. It says right here, ignitions are often caused by near-death experiences, though it is possible for an Ember to undergo such an experience, even dying without any of the spark. Obviously you didn't, but it's often caused by near-death experiences, or extreme stress. I would like to have, I would like to give them a, how do I want to phrase this? There's a feat in the game. I'm going to come down here to feats. And the feat is called Die Hard. No, not the movie. There it is. Die Hard. Okay, so the prerequisite for Die Hard is endurance, and the description is such. You are especially hard to kill. Not only do your wounds automatically stabilize when grievously injured, but you can remain conscious and continue to act even at death's door. Now, what does this mean? The benefit. When your hit point total is less than 0, but you are not dead, you automatically stabilize. You do not need to make a constitution check each round to avoid losing additional hit points. You may choose to act as if you were disabled rather than dying. You must make the decision as soon as you are reduced to negative hit points, even if it isn't your turn. If you do not choose to act as if you were disabled, you immediately fall unconscious. While you are using this feat, you are staggered. You can take normal move actions without further injury to yourself. But if you perform any standard action or any other action deemed as strenuous, including some swift actions such as casting a quicken spell, you will take 1 point of damage after completing the act. If your negative hit points are equal or greater to your Constitution score, you immediately die. So, to put this in better context, if you have the Die Hard feat, basically, you have the option of not falling unconscious, and you can continue to fight until you literally die. In fact, the act of fighting may be the thing that kills you, but you will die on your feet regardless. There are already things that alter the way the death mechanics work, and I think that planeswalking should be one of them. The reason being, if the ignition of a planeswalker's spark is what caused them to planeswalk in the first place, and it was a near-death experience that also caused them to planeswalk in the first place, I do think the two should be inextricably linked. Meaning that there may be a chance for your planeswalker to walk in the event of catastrophic injury. I'm not completely sold on this one, though, and I'll explain why. Points in its favor. Okay, and there's nothing really in here for this, so this is going to be completely just like off the top of my head. The reason I do this is because, number one, let's assume that you and your party is in a fight, and you're fighting, I don't know, let me pick something that's completely unrelated to anything that I've ever done before. Let's say your party is running down the road, and you run into an owlbear. And that owlbear kicks your ass. And a couple of people are already mauled, and one person is already dying, and it's bad. Well, what if the dying person was you? What if every time you suffered critical, grievous damage, you would just automatically planeswalk? The benefit, of course, is that, oh crap, you got hit, it hurt, you're dying, and now you're gone. Congratulations, the danger is past. Except for one thing. You could now be bleeding out in a completely different plane where nobody can reach you. That is a bit of a problem. So maybe we don't want to do that, because now it's like, congratulations, you planeswalked, and now you're going to die. And no one can save you. Not even yourself. So maybe we don't want to do that. What if, instead, we gave the option to planeswalk in the event of catastrophic damage? Now, what is catastrophic damage? Let's come down here to Game Mastering and Combat. Now, there's lots of information here about damage, but we want catastrophic? No. It's not going to be in here. Catastrophic damage. No, don't do that. Hold on a second. Catastrophic. Or no, I think it's just massive damage, actually. Massive damage. Here we go. Let's bring that back. Okay, injury and death. Massive damage. This is an optional rule. Oh, and PC Unicorn says, if you were a Planeswalker who was a doctor, would you have enough knowledge to summon an echo of your own organs to repair yourself? You know, that is one of those things that I literally cannot write a rule for. Because it's a bit way too specific and nuanced for me to write into a rule. It's one of those things that you would have to kind of argue in the moment of time. Could it be done? I mean, maybe. I'm not sure. But you could definitely make an argument for it. There would probably be some really high concentration checks involved. Because keeping everything working that way, it's kind of like breathing manually. I mean, think about it. You took an arrow through the chest, and you had a lung that's now shredded, and so you had to use your mana to summon a lung to replace the lung that you just lost. And now you are breathing manually. And I know that somewhere in my audience, there's a lot of people that just got pissed at me for saying that. I stand by it. Okay, so massive damage. It's an optional rule, but it is one that I like. If you ever sustain a single attack that deals an amount of damage equal to half your total hit points, which is a minimum of 50 points of damage, or more, and it doesn't kill you outright, you must make a DC 15 Fortitude save. If the saving throw fails, you die regardless of your current hit points. If you take a total of half your hit points or more in damage from multiple attacks, none of which deals more than half your total hit points, the massive damage rule does not apply. So it's literally just one massive damage. Now, this also comes with the Scars and Wounds optional rules, which I love, but nobody else does. I like this rule. I mean, I'm just going to touch on this, okay? Minor tangent, but I think this is so good. The Scars and Wounds optional rule. It is an optional system that gives a way to assign scars and major wounds to PCs. Before implementing the system, consider these rules carefully. Major wounds can have major effects upon play, and some groups may not appreciate such debilitations, preferring the threat of death and unscarred resurrection over thematic crippling. This has actually been my experience. Most groups do not want to play with these rules, and I think it is just so much to their detriment. Whenever a character takes damage equal or equivalent to massive damage, they also must make a successful DC 15 Fortitude save or be reduced to -1 hit points and gain a permanent debilitating scar or handicap. These effects are randomly determined by rolling a 1d20 on the table below. The effects are permanent and cumulative, though the GM should reroll results that seem too crippling or don't make sense, such as a character losing a hand or a hand 2 or 3 times. The Regenerate spell does heal scars and restores lost limbs, removing both positive and negative effects. So, if you take massive damage and you roll on the Scars and Wounds table, 1 through 5, it's a minor scar. Interesting, but otherwise cosmetic. 6 through 8, a moderate scar. Something like a cut on your face. +1 on charisma-based checks for the first scar only. It considers subsequent cuts as major scars. A major scar, 9 through 10, is a -1 penalty on their charisma skill checks, because now you ugly. 11 through 14, loss of a finger. For every 3 fingers lost, -1 dexterity. So you don't even get penalized for the first one. You don't even get penalized for the first 2. If you lose 3, though, -1 dex. 15 to 16 is an impressive wound, -1 constitution. 17, loss of an eye, a -4 penalty on all sight-based perception checks. I live that one. It sucks. My perception is terrible. Number 18, loss of a leg. Reduced speed to half and cannot charge. can't run either. 19, loss of a hand. You cannot use two-handed items anymore. And 20, loss of a full arm. So, -1 strength, cannot use two-handed items. PC Unicorn sounds, or says it sounds like RimWorld. Yeah, RimWorld is a lot like that. It's a cool rule, and I wish that I had more players that would use it. I think it would add a lot more to your characters. Besides, let's face it, it doesn't even come up that often. In order to actually take this damage, you'd first have to take massive damage, which is the equivalent of half of your hit points. It doesn't happen all that often. Okay, so anyway, that's the massive damage rules. They're cool, they're underused, I highly advocate for them. But I want to bring these up because getting back to the whole planeswalking thing, right here we have the massive damage optional rule, and it says here that you make the Fortitude saving throw. If you fail, you die. Yeah, if the saving throw fails, you die regardless of your current hit points. This is why a lot of players look at this and say, I don't know about that. In our case, though, what we could have is that if you take massive damage, and that massive damage does not kill you, because right here it says specifically, if you take damage equal to half of your total hit points, a minimum of 50 points of damage or more, so like you can't take massive damage when you're level 1 and they're shooting like arrows at you. So, and it doesn't kill you outright, you must make the Fortitude saving throw or die. What if, okay, stay with me. What if we took the exact same rule, but instead of you die, we make it you planeswalk? So, I don't know what happens. Maybe somebody like tries to shoot you with a ballista or something, and you actually get hit by this giant, javelin flying through the air. You take massive damage, and then you make a DC 15 Fortitude save. It says you must. Okay, you must make a DC 15 Fortitude save. If you fail that, bam, you planeswalk. It is a completely blind and random planeswalk. You have no idea where you're going. And so you end up there. And you end up there with only what you can carry. And just for the sake of making things easier, maybe we let you keep whatever it is you've got. Or not keep. We let you pick whatever it is that you bring with you. So, for example, since we've got this here, let me go ahead and just, I want to roll this. Let me pull up my Star Trek module because I have the appropriate tables here. The table for rolling levels is a 1D 210. So come over here, and this is going to be a 1D 210. 150. Let's see what they've won. 150 is going to be a level 10 character. And so, as a level 10 character, when you teleport, you'll be able to pick 100 pounds of gear to bring with you. Everything else gets automatically dropped on the spot, as if you just vanished and there's nothing holding it anymore. And this happens during massive damage. Now, PC Unicorn brings up the exact point that I was going to get to. The only problem I see is that you end up splitting the party. Yes! And that is not a bug. That is a feature. The fact is that if you are going to party with a planeswalker, you are already accepting that this person is, for all intents and purposes, ethereal. Yes, they are there. However, they could be gone at any time. And they don't even need the whole massive damage thing because of it. They could literally just wake up one day and say, I don't want to be here anymore. And by the way, I've always admired his sword. You know, that +2 flaming longsword. I'm going to take the flaming longsword. I've always admired your chainmail. You know, that chainmail +1 of light. I'm going to take the chainmail. I'll take the longsword. Oh, and that wizard. You've got magic wands. I've always been jealous of your magic wands. I'm going to take these 2. And then they can literally just planeswalk to another dimension. And you will never, ever, ever find them again. I mean, I say never ever, but there are some spells that would allow you to track them down. They are high-level spells. You would either need to be a rather high-level wizard to cast them, or you're going to pay a pretty penny to get a spellcaster to cast them for you. Either way, the odds of you finding that person again, really bad. And so, this is one of those things that you're going to have to accept if you're going to, number 1, have a planeswalker in your party, and number 2, if you're going to play a planeswalker yourself. Are you prepared to be by yourself? If you take massive damage, if you're dealt an attack that deals 50 points of damage or better, and it happens to be a massive attack, are you prepared to end up in another plane by yourself? Now, for what it's worth, according to the rules, you take massive damage whenever you take this damage and you are not dead. Which means that when you planeswalk to this other place, you are removed from the battle. You're removed from whatever situation you were in. And you can only planeswalk... Oh, actually, that's a really good point. How often can you planeswalk? Because it states that some people can planeswalk quickly, some people can planeswalk, not at all. I think we need a rule for that. How about this? Planeswalking frequency. We'll give it a cooldown. How about this for a cooldown? You can planeswalk. Let's see. I'm gonna go here. Planeswalking cooldown. After planeswalking, you must, or you cannot, planeswalk again for 20 minus not equals 20 minus your planeswalking or planeswalker level days. Okay, let's think about this here, because I think this is going to be a really elegant solution. So this means that, let's say that you are a level 1 planeswalker, okay? You are a newly ignited spark. Something happened, and you planeswalked to you planeswalked to Dominaria, because that's where we'll be starting to play. Immediately after your character landed there, and obviously we won't be starting there, you would not have been able to planeswalk for another 20 minus your level. Your level is 1 for another 19 days. Now, how does this fit? Let's figure out exactly when this rule could actually kick in. So your hit dice is a d6. Now, let's assume that we're rolling 6s here. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54. Okay, if you rolled maximum on all of your dice, that means that you could be over 50 hit points, not including your constitution score. You could be up to 54 hit points at level 9, okay? So level 9 right here, this would be the earliest that the massive damage could take effect. Anything below this would not be massive damage, and you would essentially just be dying. So at level 9, you're in a fight, you haven't taken any damage yet, you're still at 54 hit points. You get hit for 50 damage exactly. Okay. You've taken the damage, and let's go through the checklist here. You took the damage. Are you dead? No. We move on to the next step. You are not dead, therefore you make a fortitude check, or a fortitude save DC 15. You roll it, and you failed. Because of the massive damage, you are now forced to randomly planeswalk. You are now removed from whatever the situation is, and you find yourself in any other plane. And I mean, just because, I mean, like, why not? Planes. Where were they? Is it forward? Here we go, planes. Let's pick a random plane. Shadowmoor. Here we go. Shadowmoor, the setting for the Shadowmoor block is the other facet of the plane of the Lorwyn Shadowmoor, whereas Lorwyn was defined by its greenness, especially its forest. Its dark reflection is practically devoid of green. Its contrast to its daytime aspect, the plane of Shadowmoor exists in perpetual dusk, where the sun is never directly visible, and only light seems to come from unseen sources. Though the sun is always hidden behind a blanket of cloud, Shadowmoor still observes dawn, dusk, night, albeit with no moon. Okay, so you randomly planeswalked here. Congratulations! I think this place sucks. Locations, flora, wildlife, humanoids. Hey, look at that. There's people here. Boggarts, changelings, elementals, elves, fae, giants, kithkin, murrows. There's lots of tree folk, apparently. Wildlife, there's crawfish, serpent, there's trouts, frogs, goats, insects. I mean, it doesn't seem that bad now. Flora, there's trees. That's great. I mean, it seems like it could be a worse place. Oh, wait, no, that's Lorwyn. Excuse me. Of course it sounds nice. That's the nice place. Shadowmoor. Creatures. Cinders, Duragars, elves. There's fae, specifically groundlings. Ghosts, giants, goblins. Hags, kithkin, merfolk, noggles, oafs, tree folk, and trows. Okay, it's sounding less good. Alright, so let's say this is where you landed. Alright, you took massive damage, you rolled your save, you failed your save, you automatically planeswalk, you're in Shadowmoor now. So, what are you going to do now? First off, because you're level 9, you get to take 90 pounds of gear with you. Which is great. I mean, 90 pounds is kind of a lot. It's probably most of your gear, if not all of it, so that's good. Now, when can you get back? Well, we come down here to the planeswalking cooldown. After planeswalking, you cannot planeswalk again for 20 minus your planeswalker level days. 20 minus 9 is 11. So for 11 days, you have to survive in Shadowmoor by yourself. So, on the one hand, is this going to be good for you? It could be. It gets you out of the immediate danger. The downside is it could put you into even greater, if not more latent danger. and perhaps you need to survive on your own for 11 days while all of this is going on. And in the meantime, not only are you on your own in this place, but your party is also one person down. Maybe you were the magic caster of the group, and now they have no magic caster. Maybe they were relying on you being able to summon whole armies, because at level 9, you can have 9 creatures at once. Do you realize how much of a boon that is? That's awesome! And now it's gone. So, I mean, that's great. PC Unicorn says, random planeswalk into a volcano. That is not impossible, because here's what we could do. When you plan a planeswalk, number 1, I will have a list of all the planes so that we know exactly where you land. But we can also come back here to the mana system. And remember that we have a dominant mana by terrain list here. We can also use this for where you end up. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. A 1d13 and roll 20. We can come over here. I can actually do that. 1d13. We roll the dice, and 8. Where is 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my. It's the ocean. It literally just dropped you into the middle of an ocean or a sea. You might be dead, depending on how far you can swim and how far land is. So, yeah, you're right. Dropping somebody into a volcano? Well, if it was a mountain, maybe? I feel like this is actually worse. But hey, maybe you're a blue planeswalker. Maybe this is perfect. Maybe you can summon some kind of swimming monster thing, and it can take you for a while. At level 9, it'll only last 9 minutes. But hey, why not? And PC Gamer says, an epiphany. The show Sliders was just tech planeswalking. Kinda. I didn't watch Sliders, though. I thought it was kind of boring. It's just me. So yeah, I like this idea of massive damage triggering planeswalking. So we can call this emergency planeswalk. And we can say massive damage rules. On fortitude fail random planeswalk. Cooldown as normal. And PC Overcurrent says, "Oh, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? I can't breathe here." Or something along those lines in just random cartoon bubbles. So there we go. Emergency planeswalking. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be the kind of thing that you're both going to be equal parts excited for and terrified of. Because I just teleported this person, this planeswalker who took massive damage, into an ocean in Shadowmoor. Which is awful. That's terrible. But what if, I did it again. Stop. You know what, why not? Zendikar. Okay, what is Zendikar? Tell me about Zendikar. Zendikar's landscape is a constantly shifting and changing. This process is called the Royal. It makes settlements very scarce, and only a few outposts of civilization are present. The plane consists of 7 continents, which I'm not going to go through. There were others that were devastated by the Eldrazi, but are now recovering thanks to Nissa Ravain's use of the lithoform core. Oh, wonderful! That's where the Eldrazi were. Another geographical feature to be noted are the large floating polyhedron-shaped stones called hedrons that litter the landscape. For a long while, nobody was sure what they were, but their gravity-defying existence hinted at the strange properties of gravity and mana on the plane. These ancient rune-carved monoliths are strewn across Zendikar, up to 10 miles long. Some of these stones drift in the sky, others are buried in the ground, some whole, some broken. Otherwise, though, it sounds like Zendikar is essentially much like Dominaria, just broken and not entirely stable. So I could also send you here to Zendikar. If we roll the D13 again, we get a 9. 9 is one more than 8, so what's underneath the ocean? A plains. Alright, so this the second time we did massive damage, and they ended up in the plains of Zendikar. I mean, as far as places to land, I can think of worse. We just had worse. So overall, I think this emergency planeswalking thing is gonna work. So looking at this, I think we've got a pretty good system to go with. So obviously we have mana usage. Planeswalkers will use mana instead of normal spells. They use Magic the Gathering spells. They have a color identity, which PC Unicorn, you weren't here for. But the color identity that we're working with is that you will pick a color identity at level 1. And then as you level up, you will gain access to more colors. And the example that I gave is that if you start off as white, at level 4 you get to pick your next one. Let's say you pick blue. Your new adjacent colors become green and black, with red still being opposed. And then once you pick your second one, both, let's say black, green and red become both adjacent, which means that when you get to the next ones, you can pick whichever one you want. The end result is at level 16, you become a fully formed and fully realized multicolor planeswalker. It's simple. I like it. It's beautiful in its elegance. I like it. So, okay, there we go. We have planeswalking. We have color identity. What else do we need to go over for our planeswalkers right now? We already have established they can only control so many creatures per level. This max mana table can still stay because they can't... I don't actually need this table, but there will need to be a rule for that you can't cast any spell that is or has a mana cost higher than your level. It doesn't need a table, but whatever, it's here. I think this is good. Is there anything else to go over? So it does say here that planeswalkers at one point in time used to be immortal. After the mending, they're no longer immortal. They used to be really powerful. Now they're less powerful. Let's see. Requirements for creatures to become planeswalker in normal circumstances. They must have a soul and be a mage of some kind. Artificial creatures like angels and demons, which are manifestations of mana, do not have the right soul essence to hold a spark. Fair enough. Says traditional planeswalkers had incredible magic capabilities. This is pre-mending. Current planeswalkers, they no longer have the near omnipotence of their predecessors. While planeswalker leads to broader experiences and greater chance to learn, most planeswalkers are not any more powerful. They are still physical beings that in general age normally. They can be harmed. They need the same sustenance as mortals. They stopped being able to transport other people during planeswalks. They can bring their clothes and some small items, but for example, not food. This is in stark contrast to earlier Planeswalkers. Some have even managed to suppress or avoid some of these limitations by magical means. However, these are specific to each Planeswalker. We're sidestepping that specifically because of what PC Unicorn pointed out about splitting the party. I want to be able to transit the planes and not split the party, which is why I'm adding people to the list. Now, it could take several days. For example, if you're in a party of 4 people, okay? You're in a party of 4, which is the typical, party size. Let's say that you want to take everybody from Dominaria to Kamigawa. That's great. That's fine. Whatever you want to do. However, number 1, to take anybody to Kamigawa, you're gonna need to be level 3. And even then, you could take one person to Kamigawa. And then you have to wait for the cooldown. So it's 20 days minus your level. Since you're only level 3, that is going to be 17 days. After 17 days, you can planeswalk back to Dominaria. And then it's another 17-day wait to bring the next person to Kamigawa. And you kind of see where I'm getting here. It could take you upwards of 3 months to bring everybody from one plane to another, and that's just a party of 4. The more players the more players there are, the more party members you have, the longer it's going to take. That gets a lot easier once you hit level 6, because now not only can you take 2 people at a time, it also cuts your cooldown period down to 14 days. It's not much better, but it is still better. And I suppose the weight limit here is going to have to apply to whoever you're bringing with you too. Otherwise, you would simply be able to just offload all of your equipment onto somebody else and use them as your pack mule. We can't allow that. That is simply sidestepping the rules. So whatever weight limit you are restricted to, so too will anybody you bring with. Which is going to be a really big problem if you've got like a fighter or something in the party and they have like really heavy armor. Because if we come down here to equipment and armor and heavy armor, the lightest armor looks like the lightest armor is going to be about 35 pounds. The heaviest armors, let's see, that one's 75. That one's 75. Looks like the heaviest armor might be 75 pounds, which is just huge. And yeah, you're probably not bringing that with you. So, I like this. I think this is going to work. And I think I'm good to leave it there. Coming back to this. The new breed manifested for the first time in Venser. Don't really care. The new breed was born during the Mender when Jessica sacrificed her life and her spark to mend all the temporal rifts in the multiverse. Let's see. March of the Machines. It was revealed that the consequences of the new Phyrexian invasion caused many planeswalkers to lose their spark. I am obviously not going to be taking away anybody's spark. Lose their sparks as the multiverse was forced to open paths between the planes. So at least 16 named planeswalkers with printed planeswalker cards became legendary creatures, with their first appearance as such having a cracked planeswalker symbol or desparked watermark. So I guess what happened is that these sparks were essentially ripped out and turned into conduits between planes. Which, is fine. I'm good with that. And we can use that. So, with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to end it a little bit early today. This is good progress, though, and I'm happy with it. Next, we're going to dive back into a new set of cards. So we've already done spells, and we've already kind of done the activated abilities for spells. We did creatures, and that took a while. The next thing that I think we're going to tackle is going to be artifacts. And artifacts is going to be a little bit weird. Because, number one, when it comes to artifacts, there's a few different kinds. There's like regular just artifacts that you can pick up and hold and whatever. There's also going to be equipment and what that equipment entails. Some of the equipment is going to be really simple. For example, I can think off the top of my head the Nura Cover Sail. What does the Nura Cover Sail do? It gives flight. So if you, as a Planeswalker, summon a Nura Cover Sail and slap it on your back, congratulations, you have flight. And it's not great flight because your flight is determined by the mana cost of the card. So if I take a quick peek over here, what were the flight rules? The flight rules were, the power and toughness gives you your maneuverability. It doesn't have maneuverability, so I guess it's going to be just average for a Planeswalker. And the fly speed is the converted mana cost times 10. The Nura Cover Sail costs 1 to play, which means it has a fly speed of 10 feet. Woo! Okay, it's not great, but you know what? It's still flight. So anyway, things like that will be pretty simple. Other things that will not be simple are going to be things like weapons and armor and shields, which give bonuses to power and toughness and apply really great to the creatures that we have. If you give a sword that gives +1/+1 to a creature, it will increase its strength and constitution by +1 and +1 respectively. Held in your hands, though, it should operate differently. It should be an actual sword. So there's going to be a lot of nuance that's going to need to go into the artifacts, and it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of work that out. So that is what we've got on the slate for next time. And if you want to be here for that, then subscribe to the channel. I forgot to do that. I forgot to do that at the beginning of the stream. I forgot to do that at the top of the hour. I'm bad at this. But if you're enjoying this so far and you want to see more of it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon. That way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into either Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, then I would highly suggest that you share this out with them, because they're going to find something to enjoy here. It's going to be really good. It's going to be a lot of fun, too, once we get to actually do it. So, do that. If you enjoy what I'm doing, you'll just like me, leave a like on the video. If you want to, you can leave a comment down below. However, I'd really rather you didn't. If you're going to leave a comment, come join us on the Discord. You can leave comments there. In fact, we can even answer them in real time. Join us on the Discord, and if you want to play with us, then join the Discord, come to the Behind the Screen channel. It's a channel on there. Come to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know what game you want to play, and what your availability is like. And once I have enough players, I will put together that game. So, do that. I hope to see you there. I hope to see you next week for more Magic the Gathering. And until then, take care.